So here are the ingredients we're working with. I was going to make butternut squash enchiladas, but I only had 3 tortillas left, so it turned into an enchilada bake, which I'm really glad that happened because I think it ended up being better. We're using regular flour tortillas, kale, black beans, cheese, some different kinds of tomatoes, sauce and tomatoes, and of course a butternut squash and scallions. All the goods are here. So let me talk to you about chopping butternut squashes. They're kind of a beast. I'm also using this new Nakano knife. You really need a sharp knife, so these are the knives I'm currently using. I love them. You can find a link in the description. So to cut a butternut squash, I like to cut it in half first. And again, you want to put some weight on the knife there. It's okay. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but you want to be careful. And then I like to have the halves, and you have to make sure that you put whatever you're chopping on a flat. The flat side should be down so that it doesn't roll around, and you can then cut yourself. So just always make sure the flat side is down. And then it's easier to cut this way. And the next step after this is peeling. This is going to be a much bigger struggle if you don't have a sharp knife. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is getting a good peeler like this and just having at it. That's our peeling process for the butternut squash, and it can be a big to-do, but it's worth it, and I hope that this method speeds it up for you because it's definitely working for me. So when you're done peeling, you want to scoop the seeds out. I'm just going to do it with a spoon. You can do it with a fork. Also, if anyone knows what to do with leftover butternut squash seeds, tell me in the comments because I don't really know what to do with them at this point. But I'd love to reuse them and reduce waste in any way that I can. So just scoop out the seeds. And then after that, you can chop it up. And we're chopping this one into cubes so that you can do all kinds of different shapes for your butternut squash depending on how you're preparing it. By the way, if you don't have butternut squash for this, you can use sweet potatoes. You can use really any squash that you want. I wouldn't recommend spaghetti squash for this, but I'm sure you could try it and it'll work. And that is that. Let's move on to some cooking. So we're starting off with a little bit of olive oil in the pan and then our butternut squash, and we're adding that first because it takes the longest to cook. Of course, the smaller you chop the squash, the faster it'll cook. We're adding some salt, some cinnamon, cumin, paprika, all the good spices. Added some black pepper too. And we're just going to let it cook and soften a little bit. I like to cover it so that it doesn't burn and stick to the pan. That usually helps. Takes about 15 minutes to kind of get a little bit soft. Butternut squash is also really good roasted in the oven if you have time for that. It's another option aside from the pan. Now we cover it and let it cook. And then we're going to add some black beans and kale. Of course, you can use any kind of beans that you like or any kind of greens you like. Really, any vegetables you have can go in this. Jalapeno, bell pepper, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini, whatever you got, you can throw in here. I personally love this combo. Black beans, kale, and butternut squash or sweet potato is always really good. And yeah, it just cooks down really quickly. Super easy. You could add onions. I mean, go nuts. So that is a block of frozen chicken stock, and you can actually see how to make your own chicken stock in a video I have linked below in the description. So I just melted it on the stove and I then added the other stuff for the sauce. This was a lot of stock. Next time I probably would have used half a cup, but it ended up working just fine. Then I added the canned tomato sauce and the Rotel tomatoes, which are basically canned diced tomatoes with a little bit of heat. They're not that spicy though, so I would say even if you're not huge on spicy food, you probably will be okay with these. And basically this just simmered for a while until it was reduced. Again, there was a lot of stock in there, so this took a while, but I simmered it until there was just less sauce in the pan. It took about 20 minutes and it turned out really delicious. I didn't show this, but I did end up adding a ton of cinnamon to the pan accidentally, and it still tasted great. And then I just decided to combine the sauce with the veggies. Originally, I was going to keep the sauce separate and kind of layer it differently, but I decided to just make this decision in the moment to mix it all together, and I'm happy I did that. And then we are ready to assemble. So I have my 3 tortillas here and I'm cutting them to fit the pan a little bit better. Again, I only had these 3. I mean, I probably would have been better with 4 or 5, but I made it work. So this is a 9x9 baking dish and I've got some cooking spray in there. I'm adding a layer of my tortillas, followed by a layer of the butternut squash mixture, and then a layer of cheese. You can use whatever cheese you want, and if you are dairy-free, you can skip the cheese. It's totally not the star of this dish. I would say this recipe is really easy to double if you want to make a bunch of portions for the freezer. It's absolutely freezer friendly. And yeah, I mean, it worked really well for meal prep. So this is the last layer of tortillas, followed by a last layer of our mixture, a final layer of cheese, and then we're going to bake it. I did cover this actually for the first half of the baking so it wouldn't burn or anything. I think next time I could probably skip the covering though. And we're done. Look at that beauty. Seriously, there's just something so sexy about melted cheese in a casserole. I don't know. Look at that. So I let it cool for a little bit before cutting it up and putting it in meal prep containers, and let me tell you, this tasted so comforting and good. And of course there's tons of veggies in here. This makes a great lunch or dinner. This lasts in the fridge for about 3 to 4 days and in the freezer for up to 6 months. I absolutely love this meal and I hope that you guys try it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any questions about this recipe, let me know in the comments. Love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit subscribe on your way out. All right guys, see you next time. Bye.